All right, well, let's get started, and I'm sure we may have a couple more people trickling in. Welcome to this latest event in the BUDPR, Boricuas Unidos en la Diáspora Education and Engagement Series. I'm Alberto Medina. I am the president of BUDPR. It's really my pleasure to welcome you all, to welcome our panelists to this event about Puerto Rico's upcoming election, which is exactly 2 weeks away, and to have two candidates for office in the Puerto Rican election joining us today. So thank you so much to our panelists, Cristina and Gabriel, for joining us. If you're here, you probably know a little bit about our organization, BUDPR, but in case you don't, let me just give you the 30-second elevator pitch. We are an organization of Puerto Ricans in the diaspora, mostly in the United States, but anywhere outside of Puerto Rico, who are, educating, advocating, and organizing for Puerto Rico's decolonization. We're always excited to connect with Puerto Ricans and with non-Puerto Rican allies who care about the island, who want to see a fair and just outcome for our political future. So if you don't know a lot about us yet, I'll put the link to our website in the chat in just a little bit, but we'd love to connect with you to be in touch. And events like this, are a big part of what we do. We know that there still needs to be so much more education, so much more information about what's happening in Puerto Rico, about our colonial status, about our politics in the United States, and we're really excited to be able to play that role. And we're excited to have as a moderator for today's event one of our young leaders, Julio Lopez Torres. He's an environmental activist out of New York City. You'll hear from him in a second. But before that, I want to pass it over to Yasmin Sanchez to tell you a little bit more about one of the organizations that we're partnering with for today's event, which I should have said earlier. Today's event we're happy to do alongside the MBC, the Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana Diaspora Network, and the diaspora organization of the Puerto Rican Independence Party, which are the two parties that our guests and panelists today represent. So Jasmine, let me let you say a couple of words about the MBC Diaspora Network.
Fantastic. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Sanchez. I am part of Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana de la Diaspora. That is the Diaspora Network. I am from New York City, and I think that it's important to know that Victoria Ciudadana is made up of 4 redes, the diaspora being one of them. The other one is the redes territoriales. One is the Saber y Talento, and another is colectividades. So individually, these 4 redes comprise all the different and various sectors that are on the island and then off the island as well. The Diaspora Network has been mobilizing folks for the last 5 years. I believe since about 2019. I joined them in 2020 when we started to form a organization that was looking to start and officially recognize a party. And here in New York, I have been one of the leaders in New York alongside with various other Boricuas here from El FIP. Eric is an ally of ours, and we've been working over the last 4 years to have these educational workshops so that people here feel connected to the island, but also know that they have resources and a community outside of the island, that we want to be able to communicate as much as possible to the folks that are here in New York and Florida and Connecticut and Chicago and all the various areas. One of the things is that folks always say, yeah, somos boricuas, estamos aquí en Nueva York, pero nunca regresamos para atrás para Puerto Rico, or Zoomers, the younger generation that is like, oh, we go there on a vacation, but we know nothing about what's going on in Puerto Rico, right? Those are the exact moments that we want to live up to and capitalize on, because that is where we educate folks to get them to understand the historical events that have happened on our island, right? And get them mobilized and motivated. In doing so, everyone knows that this is a historic election. My grandparents left Puerto Rico from Cabo Rojo in 1959. That's 65 years ago. And a lot of the same issues that they left for, we still see right now. However, there is an opportunity for us to really do something different. There is hope. There's this Alianza de País there, and we are really looking to prioritize the people in Puerto Rico and their values and the things that they need. And what I would say for those folks that are in the diaspora, There is a link that we will be sharing here. There are ways for you to get involved. It doesn't always mean that you need to donate funds, although that is very, very welcomed, right? To some of the organizations and the parties like Victoria Ciudadana, ELP. But we can use you phone banking. We can use you text banking. If you're flying out to Puerto Rico for this election, please register using the link. We want to connect you with La Alianza campaigns so that we can volunteer and be part of all the work that's happening there. But there's ways to still connect. It's not just this electoral year. We want to make sure that even after November 5th, that we're still plugged in with you all, that we're still able to provide these moments where you're learning from and working in collaboration with other organizations in the diaspora, but with those in Puerto Rico too. So if you fill out the form, that will be fantastic. We will stay in touch with you. And we look forward to this meeting and working in collaboration over the next few weeks and years.
Thank you, Jasmine, and welcome everyone to this panel. I want to offer a special thank you to our panelists, Cristina Pérez and Gabriel Casal Nazario, for taking time out of their very busy campaign schedule to be here. If we can, let's give them a round of virtual applause. Both Cristina and Gabriel are running under la Alianza de País. Cristina is the Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana's candidate for the Senate seat representing Arecibo, while Gabriel is the Partido Independentista de Puerto Rico candidate for the House of Representatives, District 5 of San Juan. They represent the true new wave of young politicians who are just simply fed up with the corruption and indifference of the traditional two-party system. And while political corruption and electoral fraud are not new phenomenons or exclusive to Puerto Rico, this conversation was prompted by the allegations of voter fraud and voter suppression that surfaced in the past couple of weeks. Our guests are here today to share some insights as candidates and shed some light to these allegations, as well to discuss how we can all support fair and inclusive democratic processes in Puerto Rico. But before we jump into our questions, I would like each of you to take a brief couple minutes to share a bit about yourself so that our audience can get to know you a bit better. Cristina, let's start with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Julio, and everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Cristina Pérez, and as Julio said, I am running for Senate, representing District 3 of Arecibo under La Alianza. I'm from Victoria Ciudadana. So a little bit about my district. It goes from Dorado to Quebradillas. That's the northernmost part of Puerto Rico. We have a lot of coast. We have a huge coastline. And basically, my campaign, at least, and some of my the other candidates' campaigns are committed to fighting for a Puerto Rico where justice, equality, and sovereignty are more than just ideals. They're basically realities that we must build together. So with that said, I am focusing on several issues that are essential for our district and the future of Puerto Rico in general. These are economic justice, workers' rights, healthcare, environmental sustainability. We're also talking about infrastructure. At the moment, we have a lot of problems in Arecibo with water and electricity. You may have heard of our energetic crisis, but we also have another crisis with the water supply up north. So basically, those are my main points in this campaign. I was born here and raised here in Puerto Rico. And like many of you, I have seen how systemic inequality and political mismanagement have harmed our communities. My candidacy is about empowering us to create the change we need, from the ground up, basically. I do believe that together we can build a Puerto Rico that thrives.
Hi, thank you, Cristina. Good to see you again. My name is Gabriel Casal Nazario. I am the candidate of the Puerto Rican Independence Party and La Alianza for the district number 5. I'm candidate for representative. It includes the municipality of Aguas Buenas, the rural part of Guaynabo, and the rural part of San Juan. It's a totally rural district. Even though some people understand it as part of San Juan, it is a rural district, and that implies in Puerto Rico's mountainous region a series of problems that are unique to that community. I was born in Connecticut, actually, in Norwalk, Connecticut, but I moved to Puerto Rico when I was 1 or 2 years old. I've lived in Puerto Rico ever since. I studied here in the University of Puerto Rico, where I became a student activist against the Fiscal Control Board, which arrived in Puerto Rico in early 2017 and imposed a series of cuts, among them cuts to our public university system, and that generated a student-wide strike that was generated or instigated by a few student organizations, mine being one of them. I currently work as a staffer in Senator Maria de Lourdes Santiago's office in the Capitol building. That has given me a lot of opportunities to see the different types of work that actually has to be done there in the Capitol building, in Puerto Rico's Capitol building. We like Cristina, we entered this alliance, esta alianza, because we share a lot of common ground in a lot of key issues, from environmental rights, workers' rights, women's reproductive rights, sovereignty and public sovereignty, and a series of issues that I think have begun to set the road of what will Puerto Rico's political landscape look like from here going forward. I think Puerto Rico is in a process in which the two hegemonic parties that at some point in their lives controlled vast majorities no longer control those majorities, and we're in a point in our history where we're tracing and we're finding what are the issues that unite the new majority, and the new majority and new blocks of people that are going to be very important to shape our future history. So I'm very glad to be here with our diaspora, and I'm glad these spaces exist.
Thank you, Cristina and Gabriel. Again, thank you for being here. And even before asking any real questions, I'm already learning so much, right? Like, I didn't know Arecibo had issues with water. And Gabriel, when most people think about San Juan, they just think city, right? You don't think about like rural communities being part of San Juan. So I think that's very important for people to like think about and consider when during these elections. But for the first question, I wanted to ask you, like, the elections are right around the corner. They're 2 weeks away. You're both candidates in a very, let's say, heated political climate at the moment. How are you feeling? Are you hopeful, optimistic? Are you worried? Are you feeling positive? And feel free to jump in, whichever one of you wants to go first.
Great. So I would say that I'm hopeful. I think that the current moment is historical in Puerto Rico. We have never seen such an advancement, you know, in electoral politics from the left, probably in decades. And I do believe that there are many feelings of, yes, anger, but also the wish to transform that anger into, well, change. For example, we had Hurricane Maria back in 2017 that left us with a lot of resentment for the current government. We also had the Verano del 19, in which we ousted one of the PNP's governors, and we did it, you know, just by organizing and mobilizing thousands of people. And I do believe that those experiences, people still remember them. And I think that in this electoral cycle, we're finally able to transform the resentment, transform that, those feelings of lack of hope, of helplessness, into change, into something we can do. Like we realized that we have a lot of power, and there are many things that we do have in common in La Alianza and in the country in general, in the island in general. And we cannot let the two traditional parties keep governing us, because we have seen the waves of corruption. We have seen the waves of the way that the government is being handled, or actually mishandled. So what I do see in the streets is hope, just hope, and a lot of like willfulness to change things.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Cristina. I think that the Hurricane Maria was very important in our political process. It coincided with the fact that politically the actual colonial status was upended by the imposition of promesa, and this whole uh, this whole lie of the fact that Puerto Rico wasn't a colony and that we had sovereignty suddenly, for some part of the population, was just put down and just dismembered by the fact that the Supreme Court approved Sanchez Valle is versus Puerto Rico, which approved that Puerto Rico was a colony, and in second instance, the imposition of the Fiscal Control Board. I think the fact that Hurricane Maria arrived in 2017 implicated that that a lot of people saw firsthand how being a U.S. colony doesn't provide us with any type of security regarding energy, regarding access to food, regarding water. And I think it started to change, or it played a big role in the political, in the changing of the political climate that we see today. And I think what has happened since 2017, the earthquakes, the pandemic, the political corruption, the political turmoil, it's somehow all played its part in order to generate this perfect storm in these elections, where people are genuinely ecstatic over what can happen in these next elections. We had something we do in Puerto Rico that I don't know if you guys in the United States have an equivalent, but it was una caravana. I don't know how to translate that, but it's basically a ton of cars with huge vehicles, with trucks with a lot of sound, that make a lot of sound, and we have our candidates up on trucks, waving at people, saying hi. There was 1,800 cars that were part of this, was part of this activity, and it was ecstatic. People were lowering their windows, asking for flags. People were waiting for us in the exits of the exits of the highway, waving at us with little flags, with big posters of our candidates. It's really quite an ecstatic environment here in Puerto Rico. And I started working in Partido Independentista Puertorriqueño in 2014, 2015. And we would canvass one neighborhood with, say, 100 houses. And of those 100 houses, I'd say 10 would open to see and talk to our candidates. We have the same canvassing, the same area, the same neighborhood, 100 houses, and we can see 40, 50, 60 houses that open up to see and talk to our candidates, because genuinely it's different, and it's different to communicate, but genuinely you feel how the country has changed, and that definitely is going to have an impact this election. And I am very sure that we're going to win this next 5th of November.
And that is like beautiful to hear, and at least for me in the diaspora, and I think that a lot of people probably feel the same way, is like we're victims of colonialism as well, right? We're here because of our relationship with the United States, and also like the corruption that we see uh, from the government in Puerto Rico. And we're always like on top of what's happening in Puerto Rico. And Gabriel, I saw those videos of the caravana, and I was very excited. And I see like the discourses and the conversations people are having online, and even some of my family members that are lifelong like BNP or Populares, like they're considering voting for La Alianza. And like that brings us, at least me in the diaspora, it brings me hope, because it hurts to see like what's happened in Puerto Rico, especially in the last 20 years, and how things have gotten worse, and the population doesn't seem to like catch a break. But then that optimism and that support that La Alianza is getting is obviously leading to BNP being having their guards up, right? And as a result of that, I think that a lot of the efforts of voter suppression that we're seeing, especially in the past couple of weeks, which is what led to this conversation, I think that's where a lot of that is coming from, because they're scared. I think they know that there's a possibility that they're gonna lose. And one of the examples of this of the way that they're trying to suppress the vote is what happened with the voter registration deadline a few weeks ago, right? Especially when it came to young people trying to register to vote. So as people, as candidates who are out there trying to encourage many of these younger people to come out and vote, what did you guys see on the ground? What were you hearing from these people that were standing in line all day to register?
Okay, so I'll go ahead. Basically, there was a lot of frustration, basically, when we went to the registration centers and spoke with the people there. Usually they had to wait for hours on end just to get registered, especially during those last, I would say, week and a half. And just so you know, the voter registration deadline was on the 21st of September. The elections are on the 5th of November. So that's a lot of time. And I do believe that that is, that is some sort of voter suppression, especially because we have in these elections in which the polls are so fluid with the results, and people are deciding, basically last minute, who are they voting for. I think it's not great for us that the registration deadline passed on 21st September. We know of a lot of people who were actually asking us, hey, will this deadline be extended? Is there any chance of it being extended? And last election, it was extended. So there was that precedent. But this one, this time around, that did not happen. And it was very, very disheartening, but at the same time, seeing the young people, seeing the elderly going to their centers and registering to vote, that was great. But we are still worried because we know that there is a lot of people who did not get the chance to register to vote. And we know that, that adds up with the fact that the Supreme Court of Puerto Rico took out two of our candidates. They took them out from the ballot. We have Senator Rafael Bernabe, who is an incumbent, and we also have Representative Mariana Nogales. They were both taken out of the ballot because of supposedly they needed to file endorsements, but this did not happen. The thing is that the electoral code of 2020 was not as clear regarding this issue. So even though the Comisión Estatal de Elecciones, they told the candidates that they did not need the endorsements. Later on, they went on to say that they did need them, and decided to take them out of the ballot. And that decision was confirmed by the court.
Yeah, I totally agree with Cristina there, and the role of our electoral commission and key and the judicial system in order to remove those two senators, the senator and the representative from the office. We offered our solidarity with Movimiento Victoria Ciudadana, and that's truly something that we believe is undemocratic. But I totally agree with Cristina there.
Yeah, it's such a frustrating topic because even here in the States, people have to register, and I've always seen it as a tool to discourage people from actually voting, like making it harder for people to vote when it's supposed to be a right. You know, like why can't you just show up on election day with a driver's license, right? Or like proof of citizenship, and that's it. Or not even citizenship. I mean, if you live in the country, like you should be able to vote. But that's a topic for a completely different conversation. Now, another issue that kind of like surfaced recently was that bombshell investigative report a few weeks ago about potential electoral fraud. And the allegations against the ruling BNP party about fraud with absentee ballots, especially in the 2020 election. Also, that the report that mentioned that people that had passed away 50 years ago were still registered to vote, and their votes were being counted. Can you talk about what happened with that, and also touch up on the absentee ballot in the 2020 election in San Juan, which basically led to Natal losing that seat?
Yeah, I think it's important to put into context what exactly has happened in the past 4 years. Right after the New Progressive Party, which is not new and is not progressive, lost the legislature in the 2020 elections. The elections were in November. They ended in December, passed a new code, electoral code, which changed the rules of the game drastically. It changed, for example, it reduced the amount of registration centers that were around the island. It removed the obligation the electoral commission had of going to schools to register young people. It reduced drastically the requirements for absentee ballots and votes. They used to require a medical license, and they were 80 years or older. And in order to fill out a registration, in order to solicit those, members of all parties had to be present to fill out that registration. And that new electoral code removed that. That was a series of protections that were designed to make our system more reliable. Puerto Rico had one of the most reliable systems electorally in the world at some point. It's a system that is based off balance, in which different political parties are who offer their militants or their members at different levels of the system in order to make sure that no one party is taking advantage of the system. This change in the electoral code upended that balance, and it made our electoral commission one that was governed by someone that is named by the governor, which meant that our electoral commission for the past 4 years has been under the New Progressive Party, and that has meant that they have been able to change regulations that have been set up for years for their own benefit. And we're seeing that today. For example, for absentee voting, they reduced the age, the minimum age for absentee voting from 80 years, which is what the law says, to 60 years through regulations. It wasn't even through a law change, and that created a huge influx of people who could participate in early voting. But our electoral system isn't prepared to receive that kind of the amount of absentee votes. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the machines to read or process those votes, and we don't have the employees in the electoral commission to make sure those votes go out safely. So I think these are problems that are very important to state, but I think it's a very fine line we need to walk on as the left, because even though it's very important to criticize this potential election fraud, it's important to let our people know that there's a reason to go out and vote. We must go out and vote, because that's the only way we can change a lot of the things we're suffering. So it's important that while we denounce the fact that they're doing everything that's in their power to illegally and undemocratically keep electoral control over our island, it's important that we let people know that the only way to remove these people and to get them out of office is electing people that are honest, electing people that are that want what's most democratic and what's right for our people, and the only way to do that is to vote. So I think it's a fine line we have to walk between denouncing what we have to denounce, but letting voters know that the only way that we win and we as a people win in these next elections is if we participate openly and massively in the next elections.
Yeah, I totally agree with Casal. And I do want to add from the news article, I want to read a couple of sentences, which I think that they summarize the problem pretty well. Let's take a look, one moment. Okay, so in the General Register of Voters, more than 2,865 active voters would be over 100 years old, some with birth dates in the 1800s. The CPI, which is the Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, reviewed a sample of 450 records of these voters in the CEE, or the Electoral Commission voter inquiry platform, and found that fewer than 2%, only 8 of them, had been excluded due to death. So basically, we're talking about having the registry filled with people who are no longer with us, who are basically, they died, and their information is still in the registry. Let's see. The others remained active, including a dozen born between 1828 and 1850, who, according to the Comisión Estatal de Elecciones, voted in the 2020 general elections. One of them, a resident of Luquillo who would be 174 years old today, was reactivated to vote in 2020, according to the platform. So yeah, basically that's it. I have another quote, but it just I don't know, it demonstrates other ways in which this happens. So it says, this vote rigging involving the deceased is just one of the many potential forms of electoral fraud that political operatives have been executing for more than 2 decades in Puerto Rico, falsifying endorsements and votes, and using personal RGE, or the General Register of Voters information, to benefit candidates and clear out lists at polling stations on election day, according to testimony and documents consulted by the CPI. So, moreover, according to sources close to the institution, the CEE, the Electoral Commission, has never had the capacity nor the will to audit the issuance and management of these documents. So, yeah, basically that's what we're dealing with. But as Gabriel says, we have to keep that balance of maintaining the faith of people in the process, whilst while criticizing visibilizing these issues. So yeah, I would say that that's where we're at the moment.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, both of you. And I think that all of these issues that both of you touched up on, right, are indicative of Gabriel's statement at the beginning of his response that the New Progressive Party is not progressive whatsoever. In fact, they're very undemocratic and very corrupt. And that leads me to one of our final questions before we go into the Q&A. And it has to do with corruption, and it just feels like our whole lives, like people have always blamed Puerto Rico's problems on the political corruption, on the corrupt political parties, but election after election they vote for the same people. So like, why do you think that is? And do you think colonialism plays a role in people's decisions to vote for the same parties over and over again?
So I think that first of all, we have the fear mongering. We have the traditional parties constantly saying that the alliance, La Alianza, is a communist, and that we're here to expropriate everyone, and we're here to take your things, your car, your toothbrush, everything, and that independence will come right away as Juan Dalmau gets voted for governor, which we have rejected every single time. Like it's not it's not a process that occurs automatically, and I think that the PNP and the PPD both they have had I would say a control, a very vast control on our political system for the past 55 years, 60 years. And it's only now that we are able as the left to present alternatives that are actually viable. You know, El PIP, the Independence Party, yes, they have been around for a few decades now, but it is not until now that we actually have a chance to elect a governor from El PIP. So that said, and Victoria Ciudadana, which was created in 2019 and got two senators and 2 representatives elected in their first election, I think that was a demonstration of force. That was a demonstration of strength. And it led people to believe that, yes, change is possible. And these past 4 years, we have been trying to, build La Alianza and get as many people on board as we possibly can. But we also have to be cognizant of the challenges that we are outsiders, basically. And we're the underdog. We're trying to get to power using our numbers, using grassroots organizing, not donations from corporations, not super PACs, not any of those. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to state that these past 12 years, the 2 main parties in Puerto Rico have lost a ton of votes. They used to win elections with, and they used to be 52% versus 40-something%, or very close votes, close to 50%. The winner receiving always close to 50%. But in last 2 elections, in 2016 elections, the governor won with 37%, and the last elections he won with 32%. The margins are each time are smaller and smaller as time passes by, and it's because the country has changed. The country has changed profoundly thanks to different material factors that change the consciousness of the people in Puerto Rico. And I think in the last elections, for example, in my district, I am running against Georgie Navarro, which is very caricaturesque person. And he used to win with 54, 56, 57% of the vote. Last election, he won with 34% of the vote. And this election, last election, sorry, the candidates that are now La Alianza obtained 29%, which is more than which was more than the Partido Popular Democrático (PPD) party. And I think that's become true in a lot of local places around the island, and we have a very real chance of winning. The different polls that have been made put us at a solid second place, but we've always polled badly. So I think the fact that we're at such a close place at a second place, that we have a real chance not only to win Juan Dalmau as governor, but locally, which I think is very important. Locally, we were really close in past elections of beating tanto Populares and PNPs in different districts for representative and for the Senate and for mayors of different municipalities. But because of many things we can discuss, we weren't able to win a lot of these seats. But I think this election, it's definitely inevitable. We're constructing and we're building a movement that has definitely displaced Partido Popular Democrático as the second political force in the island. La Alianza is definitely the main political force in the island, and that's why the PNP constantly and has wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking La Alianza, because they know, and we know, and the country knows that we're the main opposition force on the island. And it's very interesting to see how that shapes up locally for local politics, like Cristina in Arecibo, and for me in Agua Buena, Guaynabo, and San Juan.
Oh yeah, thank you. And I think even from looking at it from over here, from the outside, I've actually noticed a shift in that mentality. I think, Gabriel, like you said, like Puerto Ricans have gone through so much in the past couple of decades that I think they're starting to see that relationship with the United States a little differently, which is allowing them to be more open-minded about voting for candidates outside of the traditional political parties. I wanted to take a question real quick from the audience. I know that in the past, the Independence Party has proposed a series of electoral reforms. So what would you like the electoral system in Puerto Rico to look like, and what needs to happen for this to improve?
Well, I think there's a few aspects of the political system we have to rescue from how it was. We have to bring back the importance of having balance, of having a commission board that is ruled by a balance between the parties and not by someone anointed by the governor of whoever party won. That's for starters. We also have to talk about serious electoral reform in Puerto Rico, like the fact that a governor can win with 32% vote, where in a lot of other jurisdictions in the United States or in countries that wouldn't be possible, because we'd have a second election, a runoff election, to see who gets a majority. Is some things that point to the intrinsic problems we have with democracy in Puerto Rico, even though, and maybe that's another conversation, but the fact that we are a colony and we have a system that is based on the United States system, and the fact that we are a colony is in itself undemocratic. We can't say we have a democracy in Puerto Rico. We have elections in Puerto Rico and we participate. And elections and elected officials have a say in the daily lives of people. But it's difficult to say we have a democracy in self in Puerto Rico, because we precisely are a colony. We can have an electoral system that strives to be the most democratic electoral system possible, which is, I think, something that we can seriously talk about what needs to change about the local commission board. we have to remove it from the hands of whatever majority party there is. But there's also another serious questions of how do we have an actual serious democratic system in Puerto Rico that transcends that electoral reform. That we have to talk about democracy, we have to talk about sovereignty, we have to talk about our ability to pick our rulers for ourselves. And I think that's a deeper, more profound conversation. But I think it's important to have both because they're both urgent for Puerto Rico in general.
Yeah, I would just like to add, I wholeheartedly agree with Gabriel. I would like to add a bit more about our colonial status under Promesa and under the Junta de Control Fiscal. At the moment, La Junta, which was basically an entity created by Congress in 2016, was it 2016, I think? Yeah, 2016. It was signed by Obama, and it basically it came after Puerto Rico, the governor of at the time, Alejandro Garcia Padilla, said that the public debt was unpayable. So we did not have, as as a country, we did not have the means to go into bankruptcy, and thus the Congress approved the fiscal fiscal oversight and management board, which basically decides everything regarding budget. So that means if schools need more budget, the junta has to uphold that decision. If, for example, la Comisión Estatal de Elecciones needs more money, it's up to La Junta de Control Fiscal to decide if it gives money to the Electoral Commission or not. And I do believe that leaves us in a worse place than we've ever been in our history in the relationship between Puerto Rico and the United States. Basically, because we don't have any an administrative power even, we don't have the opportunity to, for example, say, okay, we're going to invest X amount of money in developing this industry or infrastructure or anything else. La Junta has a priority, and that is to pay the Puerto Rican debt. It's not with its commitment. It's not to the people of Puerto Rico. Actually, in La Junta, there are no representatives of Puerto Rico. Actually, there are a couple of them who are Puerto Ricans, I believe, by descent, but they're not they're not elected officials. We did not decide. We as Puerto Ricans, we did not decide. We didn't have a say on this. So I think that first we must look at that relationship. First, we must resolve this problem because it's been so nefarious to us here in the island. And we cannot talk about democracy, as Gabriel says, without talking about La Junta and their horrible colonial rule over us.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like you said, the aforementioned Sanchez Valle decision and La Junta, and even like Act 60 has plunged Puerto Rico into a deeper colonial reality, and what little sense of sovereignty Puerto Rico got in the 50s with ELA is completely gone, and that was even a farce. But I wanted to touch up on the question that Javier Rivera asked in the chat about AOC's and Nidia Velázquez's recent endorsement of Dalmau and La Alianza. Has La Alianza had any other conversations with any other members of Congress? Jasmine responded in the chat saying that Diaspora Red has been in conversations with Hakeem Jeffries and other members of the squad members, and Ana Irma went to the Democratic Conference. Do you guys have any other thoughts or feelings about the endorsement, which, in my opinion, is huge to see AOC and Nidia Velázquez endorse Dalmau and not endorse somebody that they've been working with for some time in the Congress, and it's because they probably know who she truly is. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that endorsement was very important in order to reinstate the fact that a lot of myths that have been going around in Puerto Rican electoral campaign about the fact that La Alianza getting into power would immediately mean independence. Unfortunately, that is not true, and that's a myth, and that's a lie that has been used by the PNP to instill fear among some people in Puerto Rico. Juan Dalmau has made some visits to the United States Congress to talk about different decolonization efforts, particularly the bill that we subscribed. We didn't subscribe. We endorsed the bill by Nidia Velázquez, AOC, and Diego. The definitions of independence in that bill were very truly generous, actually. And we weren't expecting them to be like that. But I think, this goes back to the importance of the diaspora. I think we're arriving at a point in our history where the role of the diaspora, it's always been key, but it's now even more important than before. In the fact that we need to pressure local American politicians in order to take a stance on Puerto Rican decolonization, and the only way to force U.S. politicians to take a stance and to work actively in order to get Puerto Rican decolonization is through the diaspora, through that local pressure, and I think that's very important. I think we're entering in a new period of Puerto Rican history where not only electoral politics in Puerto Rico have changed, but I think that's going to signal a change in American politics and how Puerto Rico's issue is treated by American politicians. And I think it's very important that we insist, us as the Puerto Rican Independence Party and La Alianza in general, to insist on a truly decolonial solution to Puerto Rico's status problem. That has been something totally different from what the PNP party and PPD party has done for the past 7 decades. I think we need a very serious way to end with Puerto Rican colonial crisis, and the diaspora, I think, is one way to do it.
That's right. I agree with Gabriel. I do believe that the endorsements from these congresswomen are really important. They also give us some visibility that we did not have before, not necessarily as it was not as visible, La Alianza. And we've seen how, for example, other newspapers, for example, in the United States, are starting to talk about La Alianza precisely because of that endorsement. So I do believe that this has been an important step, and it just positions us in a way that, I mean, we're striving for change, and I do believe we're gonna achieve it.
Yeah, no, I feel like the role of the diaspora is so important, and also, like, I feel like Juan Dalmau has been the only candidate that's actually like addressed the diaspora, at least in the past few elections. Like the PNP, they want to be part of the United States, but they don't really consider the diaspora or the PPD. So I think that's part of the reason why so many of us out here feel so attached and so much support for La Alianza. And we have a couple minutes, and just briefly, I just wanted to ask if there's any other way that we in the diaspora can support all of you or your candidacy, if you want to drop some links to your websites or Instagrams where people can connect, maybe donate to your campaigns, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my social media in the chat. I'll put it now, but it's Gabriel Casal PR on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. And there you have a few links to my site and how to donate and help. Any help, even if it's just to share, it goes a long way. So we're really appreciative of what the diaspora has done and any help you can put you can throw our way.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be doing the same. I'm dropping here the Instagram link. I'll also be linking my Venmo account. So yeah, thank you very much for this forum, for being here, and for listening to us and sharing this wonderful moment in our history. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both, Cristina, Gabriel, Jasmine, for being here and taking part in this. And yeah, best of luck. Éxito, espero que ganen. And yeah, and hope to stay in touch. Alberto, you want to say a couple words before we wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. Just because somebody needs to thank you too, Julio, and you're not going to thank yourself. So thank you for moderating today's conversation. And I add my thanks to the ones you already gave to the panelists and to Jasmine for joining us, and of course to all our attendees. You know, Gabriel said it well, but both of you said it, but Gabriel especially about what we need to be doing in the diaspora, not just in the next 2 weeks for these campaigns, but for the fight for Puerto Rico that isn't going to end on November 5th, no matter what happens in the election. You know, we have power here in the diaspora as voters, as constituents, as people who can influence our friends and colleagues who aren't Puerto Rican to care about this issue, right? To make this something that's part of their political commitments for justice, the way that other political issues and struggles and fights are. So as I put in the chat a couple of times, that's the work we do at BUDPR. We'd love to connect with you if we haven't already. You know, we'd love to have a conversation about how you can join us, how you can contribute to this work. You can also donate to us too, although it's fine if right now your money goes to to the candidates for the election in the next couple of weeks. It's much needed. So yeah, budpr.org, and find us at budpr on X/Twitter or Bud Puerto Rico on Instagram and TikTok. And look for more announcements about events. I don't think we're gonna have any others until the election because everybody's busy with that, but I think we're certainly going to look to get together again with people from the island, connect with people, connect people in the island and in the diaspora to debrief the election, to say, what happened, what went great, what went not so great, and especially to keep that conversation going about where we go from here and the work that we need to do together. Because, there's that great organization, 9 millones, there's 9 million of us, 3 million on the island, 6 million in the diaspora, and we need to keep thinking and talking and working and acting together as one big diasporic nation to move things forward for Puerto Rico. So with that, thanks so much again. We'll see you soon, and good luck to our candidates on November 5th. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Yeah.
night.
So